Here we have an editor in his natural habitat. He has just about finished his project, looking proud and pleased. There is one fun step. Just add some background music.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel again. My name is wisebeast. Today we're going to talk about some stuff I heard about on Earth Day. So here we go. Good news for whales in Iceland, not Greenland, because Greenland is the bigger giant island closer to Canada. It is part of the European Union, and so is I think Greenland. But Greenland is a bit more closer to Europe, but it's more in the middle of the Atlantic northern region. They had some fishing license, I think, to 2 whaling companies. They were allowed to hunt, I think, 200 to 500 minke whales, and I think it was 300 to 400 baleen whales. I heard it's called baleen whales and baleen whales. I don't know. Might be how some people pronounce it, but that's how I heard. The price of those whales is it's not worth it. It's not inexpensive. It's more diminished value because people are not buying as much canned whale because the cost of it is not worth it. If it's worth anything, maybe production or manufacturing, or maybe lumber or mining, or in this case whaling, it has to be worth the price to do it, because all that time, resources, the fuel, and paying people too, that's also an expense. That needs to be a benefit in paying it off. So the price of whaling for food has dropped down quite a bit apparently. None of the whales this year are going to be hunted. Next year, who knows, it could increase or maybe not. I think it would be nice if there's this guy who made a price for whales if they're left alone. I think it's $1 million to $2 million. They are good for the economy and environment. If they're just left alive, I don't know. I'll have to double check on that. South Korean children have lawsuit their government for having inaction for no climate change, and actually the government has acknowledged this to an extent, but their primary problem is still to reverse somewhat of this overworking work culture that they have, which is being the Japanese. And in doing so, they also beat the Japanese in one more thing, which is less kids. They're having birth because they have so much work. I think they have 60 hours or 70 hours of work that they do not get paid for at all. For all those other countries that do have basically workers' rights and they do get paid for, count your eggs lucky because get paid overtime. I know Justin Trudeau, in the rumors I heard, he wanted to get rid of overtime. I don't know if that's true or not. If it is, how the hell did this guy get elected the second time? Is still the army done. But that's that. And also Japan is also facing a population decline as well, because they have a work culture as well, but they're behind South Korea, which South Korea is the number 1 in declining population. I think both Japan and South Korea will become repopulated by the wilderness, and it'll become the wildlands, I like to call it. But I also think this is a more practical scenario. The Chinese will come, they'll take that land, and they'll occupy it. Or maybe the North Koreans will come, then the Chinese will take it, and they say it will be theirs. And then have some weird sort of like 2-state kind of, it's their control, but not really on paper. And before you say how the Russians are facing also a population decline with us Canadians and Europeans, because we do not have as much overwork culture, but that is kind of contributing to it. But also there's a lot of, for Russia, there's no like individualism, kind of like insanely messed up kind of way for their culture. There is individualism, but it's more like what the state allows you. I can't speak more on that because I don't know much about Russia, and I don't have any Russian people I could talk to more and ask for questions, so there's that. But I do know that there's 2 features that Canada and Russia share, not so much with Europe because Europe doesn't have that feature, but basically Canada and Russia are like the lands that the nations are built on. They're like 2 angry old women with either angry enough to not listen or angry enough to tell you to shut the fuck up. And when they tell you to shut the fuck up, you shut the fuck up and listen. And you have to do it. And if they want you to do something, they'll let you do it. Simple as that. If you don't understand, well, you have to live either Canada or Russia to understand. They're both harsh lands, and they don't make 90% of the people be happy. And those who do, they find their own way to find happiness. So if you want help the environment, what you could always do is you could find cans, bottles, some stuff that people have discarded on the side of the road, furniture. It could be some other metal objects, like sometimes I find plates or saws, metal tables. There's even sometimes people just throw, I think I seen one time an old bathhouse. So what you do is you grab that, make sure your vehicle can handle that stuff, and make sure your vehicle is not scratching almost to the bottom of the ground with the load because they can't handle it. And if you're just saying let's handle bottles and cans, all right, make sure the bottles and cans are clean. Make sure they're separate. Bottles are in one bag, cans are in another bag. Make sure there's nothing in them that, people who have to deal with the recyclables, they don't have to almost feel like they're vomiting. I was in that once and I almost felt vomiting a few times. It would be nice if you could clean some of these cans and bottles. That's all I'm asking. Don't want to do recycling cans. If you don't want to grab garbage and scraps of metal and stuff, you can always do a simple job and it could save you some money depending where you live in the region and around the world. Because if you live in a colder region, yeah, you could save some money up to a season. And if you live in a warmer region, you could save almost year long. Let's first break this up. If you live in a townhouse or in a condo, get fellow tenants and maybe your landlord involved to make sure the authorization is more clear so the landlord knows and they don't have to screw you over. The landlord feels like they're being screwed over by you. Is that you organize one of the property yards or yard is organized into a garden. Make sure you separate fruits and vegetables from one side to another and make sure you separate which fruits and vegetables people are allergic to make sure they're far away from or that you don't get them at all. Yeah, it'll be a little bit more expensive, I guess, in your budget, but it'll be a little bit more easier. Do know fruits and vegetables will not grow instantaneously within a month. It might take, I don't know, somewhere around 3 to 4 months, maybe longer for some fruits and vegetables, maybe a year longer because they have to grow first a shrub or a stem. Then the next following year, they might have to grow again and maybe bear fruits or vegetables underground. That way you can pluck it and grow it. If you do not want to buy manure, always make sure if you find any scrap wood that is not put any chemicals or somebody, defecated on it, or it's a part of someone's house and you just broke it off. Make sure the wood is nice and, dry. Burn it. Make sure there's ash and charcoal. Make sure it's nice and cool. Put some water in that. Make sure it's nice and cooled off. Dry it off. Put it into the garden. It'll be a makeshift fertilizer. Once again, some places around the world where there's volcanic activity, that volcanism with all the ash and soot, that's very good fertilizer. It is technically a better fertilizer than shit in some cases because it's got way more nutrients for the plants to take. Take that as you may. If you live in an apartment, you're going to have to basically ask the landlord or the supervisor, or you're going to have to ask the supervisor to the landlord if the roof is safe to go up. Make sure that there's no ceiling windows because if there are, you could fall easily through that and you could hurt somebody. Make sure you don't dig anything into the roof because it will be a structural integrity problem and could hurt somebody in the long run, or it will cause health issues and you'll be the dumbass getting in trouble. So don't do that. Get some tables, and before you get some tables, you're going to have to isolate some problems. If you're getting fruits and vegetables and seeds, you're going to have to make sure, are some people okay eating seeds? If not, you're going to have to throw that seed away or seeds. Are they okay with some fruits and vegetables? Okay, fine, isolate it. Or, if they can't handle it whatsoever, then you have to scrap that too. So that's one thing you're going to have to do beforehand when you get the tables. Once you get the tables, make sure the fruits and vegetables and seeds you have planted, everyone can enjoy and eat. Make sure it's nice and safe and that it does not become a health hazard. Again, make sure you don't hurt yourself when you don't get close to roofs, chimneys, windows, fans. Make sure you're nowhere near any power lines or sort of water piping that leads into a water tower, so that way you don't get hurt. That's one way you could do it. Let's just say you want to go and help the environment a little bit more, and you don't want to handle, just small shit. You want to handle, animals and plants and all that. You're going to have to find an organization. You're going to have to find out what their qualifications, their credentials are. You're going to have to figure out what their needs are. You're going to have to find out where do they go more. Do you know a language that they don't have? People that usually go there understand the language. Do you know how to speak Mandarin or Chinese? Do you know how to speak South African or maybe Somali, Senegalese, Portuguese, Hindi, Sanskrit, Farsi, Urdu? Or do you know how to speak a version of Slavic language or Italian version of some sort of Hispanic language? Do you know how to speak Creole? Creole is usually primarily found in the Caribbean, if you want to know. It's various different Caribbean island nations will have a English Creole or French Creole. What does that mean? It's usually a mix of the original indigenous language or their ancestors' language from Africa, usually, that they're imported and became slaves, and they'll mix it up into that sort of their own unique language. I can't remember some of these languages right now, but if you have some of these languages, or you know these languages, or you're born into those cultures that speak those languages. That could be one little bonus, but if they still need like requirements like you being a veterinarian or being like some sort of like expert in handling people's and animal relations, or a veterinarian, or you need to know how to handle plants and animals, then you need to have those requirements. If you don't want to handle animals, you want to go to a more renewable energy sector, you need to know some of your engineering. You need to know how to handle safety material. Well, not safety materials. The materials is unnaturally safe. Usually all material is unnaturally safe. The only safe material is nothingness. That's why the UN is basically only controls safety, because every nation doesn't care about their own safety. It's just a fact. Basically, if you want to handle like solar panels and all that, you need to know some of your engineering, your material sciences. You need to understand that a little bit more. You need to also understand a little bit more of your circuitry and wiring. Make sure you know where to ground a certain object to something else, and you need to know to where to put the positive and negative separately so they don't collide and accidentally you short a fuse, or you accidentally made some sort of firebomb. And that way you understand. I would say solar is more right now better technology. I know it's more wanes on the sunlight, but it's more better than wind, because wind is killing a lot more birds, because birds are getting more impact. And before you say birds fly and go off natural wind currents, then they could thrive. Most bird species can't, because the wind currents are there and they use it. There's no wind current over there, they can't handle it. It takes more time, more energy, more effort, and by the time you say, well, they do this and this and this, well, they can't. They just can't. It takes millions and millions of years. Yes, we all know sometimes nature does a leap, but she doesn't do always a leap. She sometimes likes to make you all crawl first. Sometimes do the worm. She doesn't allow leaps that often. My personal opinion is, if you want to handle more greener energies, it'll have to be nuclear fusion powered, because nuclear is safe. Yes, I know the West is having right now a history with nuclear energy, because nuclear energy is bad, it's scary, it creates death and destruction, and it always leads to a barren wasteland. It happens only I think twice, Nagasaki and still to this day Chernobyl. I haven't heard of any other nuclear natural disasters, and if there were, usually it's a military project and usually they'll hide it, or it's a government project and they're hiding even more, and they would not want it punched in the face by the public, because the public will be wondering who the fuck allowed you to have nuclear energy. Usually they hide it, and a few times that is usually they can't hide it, it's unbearable. 9 times out of 10, it's just been Chernobyl and Nagasaki. It has been the nuclear natural disasters. Yes, there's a lot of small nuclear power plants that are the idea, and I know there's this another new, well, it's not technically new, but it's another form of nuclear energy that experimenting right now in France, but it's still working out the kinks. If you want to go and work in nuclear energy, you're first going to have to know your nuclear science. You're going to need to know your nuclear physics, and you're also going to have to know your material sciences as well. And I think you also have to follow, once you get all that, I think the safety and standards of your country that has been set up with the nuclear energy, because every country has their own different standards in handling nuclear energy, so you're going to have to follow the rules and regulations. I know this is a very unusual video, folks, and I know you were, I think, expecting me to do another April Fool's video, but I'm just tight on some money, and also the program that I usually use, it has created computer migraines for the computer, and also I'm getting really pissed off on it, so I'm gonna have to find solutions around that. And yes, I'll talk to you guys later. I just had to come out of Elf militant prison, because my usual food supply dwarves I've been eating, they've mostly been dying off, mainly due to some new disease that's been killing off, so I've been eating elves. But nobody told me that elves use basically rocket launchers that are used for tanks, so now they're being holding up. Apparently you can't eat elf children. Wasn't like that 50 years ago. You could eat elf children and nobody would care. Yeah, I know, pointy ears, bitch, I'm coming. Bye. You guys can follow me at Kara. Instagram is dead to me. I don't give a damn.
You could use a hand job in your life.
Yes, I still use her as well. Anger I'm also using, but it's more like I got a suppository stuff I'm gonna have to do with it. So yeah.
I want problems, always!
And Mino's there as well. Yes.
Question. For God. Why?
Reddit is always available.
Minigun, bitch.
Tumblr, for some folks, is still there too.
Oh, no.
You can also follow me at ArtStation as well. And yes, I am using Odyssey and Internet Archive. See you guys and bye.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's